Hello there and welcome to Network Africa with me, Cynthia Array. We're looking at security today, but before we go into that, we've got some really good news as Tanzania's President Jakaya Kikwete has promised to end a wave of killings of albinos, saying the witchcraft-related murders were shaming his East African nation. Activists say attackers have killed at least 75 albinos in Tanzania since the year 2000 to use their body parts in rituals. There are about 200,000 albinos in Tanzania, most of them easily recognizable as they lack pigment in their skin, eyes and hair. Witch doctors often tell clients that albino body parts will bring them luck in love, life and business. Similar beliefs exist in other African societies, but activists say attacks on albinos are particularly prevalent in Tanzania. The president has also shut down that myth, and he's saying it's a false belief that if someone has the body part of a person with albinism, this will bring success in business, fishing and mining activities, as that's what's been fueling the ongoing evil. Tanzanian police on Monday banned a planned demonstration by the Tanzania Albinism Society, that's TAS, in the country's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam, citing security reasons. But President Kikwete said he had agreed to meet albino leaders next week to discuss possible solutions to the killings. Now to security matters. The extremist group Boko Haram has hit a new low. The terrorist group has released a video purporting to show it beheading two men. That's the very first online posting in which graphics and editing techniques are used, which is strikingly similar footage from the Islamic State. The film, released on Monday, that's just yesterday, shows militants standing behind the two men who were on their knees, their hands tied behind their backs, with one man standing over them holding a knife. One of the men was made to tell the camera that they had been paid by authorities to spy on the militant group. Now, before the film moves to another scene showing their decapitated bodies, it was not possible to confirm the film's authenticity or the date. The militants, who've killed thousands and kidnapped hundreds in their bid to carve out an Islamist state in their homeland, have in recent months stepped up cross-border raids into Cameroon, Chad and Niger. Now, for more on that video, we go to Washington, D.C., where the Voice of America's Jeffrey Young, who is a security expert, is standing by. Jeffrey, thank you so much for speaking with us again on Network Africa. We're glad to have you.
Yes, it's a pleasure to join you again.
Now, Boko Haram has released this video, which is actually less gruesome than ones they've done in the past, but it seems as though they're trying to copy the Islamic State. Do you deem that a coincidence, or could there be a link between the two groups?
I don't know if I'm willing to go so far as to say that there is a direct link between Boko Haram, Daesh, the Islamic State, and Al-Qaeda. I can't imagine these people connecting in a chat room or through some sort of a messaging system and trying to work out their plays. I think what we're seeing more likely is the old adage that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Boko Haram clearly wants this sort of global attention, the kind of attention the Islamic State has garnered with its bloodthirsty beheadings and its other acts. And by imitating Daesh's behavior, obviously, Boko Haram hopes to gain status and power through fear. The Nigerian president, Goodluck Jonathan, has linked Boko Haram to both Al-Qaeda and Daesh. I'd be curious to see exactly what his intel is on that, but it is fair for him to liken Boko Haram's behavior to the other groups. Clearly, that is evident.
Now, should we consider this video to be a red flag?
A red flag in the sense of that now we should take them seriously? We already did. I think that people all over the world have looked at Boko Haram and seen its actions and its brutality, and they've reacted with it to the point of saying that they have to do something about it. And Boko Haram's brutality is its own. It obviously copies what gets noticed and reacted to. It's clearly an indication that the global distribution capabilities of the internet can be and are used for propaganda, destabilization, control of people through the threat of violence, and a lot of things. And all of these elements are already known about Boko Haram. These decapitations and other acts being publicized on the web really only affirm that this group has learned the value of the medium, the internet, and further its aims.
Now, finally, Jeffrey, some suggest that this is just a tactic in order to induce fear, especially since the president has reiterated that the Nigerian military doesn't only have the upper hand, as they clearly do, but they've also retaken some towns which were being held by the group initially. Now, what are your thoughts on that suggestion?
Well, first of all, a tactic to induce fear, absolutely. Kidnapping schoolgirls was one level. Murdering non-Muslims is another. And now we have video of beheadings that takes it up yet another step. Seeing people get brutally murdered on camera is fully intended to strike fear and intimidate a population into not fighting back out of concern for their own lives, and also accepting the domination of Boko Haram as a controlling power in parts of Nigeria. Clearly, the ultimate goal of Boko Haram is power. Power over Nigeria, control over its resources and its wealth, so that Boko Haram can use that to establish themselves as the dominant force in Nigeria and throughout the region in Central Africa. Your thoughts?
Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for speaking with us again on Network Africa. As always, we appreciate your time and your input. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Well, now we're still looking at security, and when a person's life comes under threats, they could literally do almost anything to protect themselves, including fleeing places they once called home. At the moment, relief agencies are providing basic shelter, food and other necessities for over 3,000 refugees, mainly women and children, who now live in the Dar es Salaam camp in Chad. Many of the refugees report that they've lost family members and property and fear that more Nigerians could be crossing the lake as violent attacks continue.
More than 3,000 Nigerian refugees now live in Dar es Salaam camp in Chad, where they depend on humanitarian aid to survive. Aid workers estimate at least 1 million people in Nigeria have abandoned their homes. Another 157,000 have fled into neighboring countries, according to United Nations figures. The growing number of refugees has put further strain on some of the poorest nations in Africa, which are already struggling to feed and protect their own people in a region that is recovering from drought. Chad, Niger and Cameroon are hosting refugees from Nigeria. UN's refugee agency, UNHCR, and its partners have been setting up families at refugee camps.
They are cold because they have fled without taking anything with them. They arrived tired and some are very hungry. Here, the Chadian population helped them by collecting food to give them. But they are arriving tired, some of them very hungry. We didn't find many cases of malnutrition because the reception and transport do not last long, so they are arriving in an acceptable condition.
Human rights group Amnesty International says Boko Haram may have killed some 2,000 people around January 3 in Baga in northern Nigeria. More attacks have continued since. The Sunni Muslim sect, which is trying to carve out an Islamic State in the largely Muslim north of Nigeria, has killed thousands in a 5-year rebellion, which is seen as the biggest security threat to Africa's top oil producer and is a headache for President Goodluck Jonathan ahead of an election on March 28. Baby Falmata Idris is only months old, but her life is already being disrupted. Her mother, Kaltuma Abaka, gave birth on the run after an attack on her town in northern Nigeria. Kaltuma recalls a hail of gunfire and then losing sight of her husband as they fled toward the shores of Lake Chad. Hundreds of Nigerian refugees crossed safely to Chad, including Kaltuma, her children and parents. But her husband's whereabouts are still unknown.
Many people were running away, but everyone was out for themselves.
Abaka says she is grateful her family survived the journey and that they are healthy. Nigeria has delayed by 6 weeks a presidential election that had been due on February 14, partly to allow the military contain the insurgency in the northeast, where millions risk being disenfranchised due to violence. Few believe that the 6-year uprising can be seriously dented in 6 weeks and allow them to return home.
I'm not thinking of going back to Nigeria now. I feel safe here in Dar es Salaam. I have peace of mind.
Nigerian forces have launched an offensive on the militants, while neighbors Niger, Chad and Cameroon are seeking to hold the militants within Nigeria's borders ahead of a ground and air offensive by a regional task force due to start from the end of March.
Joining us now live via telephone from Geneva is the Senior Communications Officer, that's Karen de Grille of the UNHCR. Karen, thank you so much for speaking with us on Network Africa. We apologize, we just lost that call. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll reconnect with Karen to tell us more about the situation in the Chad camp where Nigerian refugees are. Please stay with us.